This past weekend had a little bit of everything for Maryland athletics. Volleyball took the reigning champs to 5 sets at a special venue. Field hockey and both soccer teams had big Big Ten games. And of course, the colossal collapse for Maryland football that needs to be talked about. So settle in. This edition of the Left Bench starts right now.
Welcome back to the Left Bench presented by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ben Geffner. He's Ryan Martin. And Ryan, it's great to be alongside you for the first TLB show of October.
Yeah, Stranger, how's it going here? Yeah, excited to be back at the desk with you, Ben. We're getting the 2025 academic year started the right way. And happy to be with you.
No doubt. Let's start things off with Maryland football, who entered the weekend 0-9 in post-bye week games under head coach Mike Loxley. A deja vu result on Saturday moves the start to an even 10 after a nightmarish loss to Washington. Fans packed Sekou Stadium for an announced shellout, and the Terps take advantage early. An 8-minute drive by Maryland's offense closes the first quarter with a Malik Washington rushing touchdown. Then a strike to A.J. Szymanski cements a 20-0 Terps lead and Washington's first half shutout of the year. But a Huskies resurgence, complemented by an all-out Terps breakdown on both sides of the ball, fuels an improbable road comeback. 3 unanswered second-half TDs by the Washington offense stuns a disheartened Maryland squad. The Terps fall at the hands of the Huskies 24-20. Here's head coach Mike Loxley on the team's second-half collapse.
I mean, we kicked way too many field goals in the first half where we had opportunities, and those type of things are the things that get you when they get you. Kicking field goals when we have advantageous field position, and those are the things that come back to bite us, and it did today, which to me we got to learn from.
Before Maryland faced Washington, Ted Monachino's defense was nothing short of stellar. And that was the big takeaway for a family weekend crowd in the first half of Saturday's game.
Yeah, but with an ejection right before the half, penalties committed, and a plethora of mishaps, the defense saw an all-out collapse in the second half. TSC's Drew Owens has more.
Maryland defense has been lights out so far before coming into its game versus Washington. Maryland held Washington scoreless, leading the Huskies to readjust their offense. And from the looks of it, Maryland's defense seemed to be going strong, but that all dismantled towards the end of the third and for the rest of the game. First, Sydney Stewart gets ejected for targeting. The Terps get a penalty for taunting. That gave Washington all the momentum they needed to take control of this game.
For us, I'm looking forward to getting this stuff fixed with our team. We'll learn from this, and I expect this team to respond the right way.
Washington ended up scoring 24 unanswered points in the 24-20 win, giving the Terps their first loss of the season.
Stopped the run, we were able to limit the explosives with the offense and just play up to the standard that we had set out, and we just got to continue to play to that standard throughout the whole game.
For Terrapin Sports Central, I'm Drew Owens.
Thanks so much, Drew. And Ben, you heard Daniel Wingate right there, a real leader for this Maryland defense. He's mentioning they limit the explosiveness, held one of the best running backs in the Big Ten, Jonah Coleman, in check, but still just wasn't enough, and that was really a second-half collapse. Yeah,
just a colossal collapse, and be interesting to see if the Terps can bounce back following this another bye-week loss.
It's going to be big. We'll see you next week. But still looking for its first win in Big Ten play, Maryland volleyball hosted the reigning champions Sunday, number 16 Penn State, on the main court in Xfinity. And this match did not disappoint. Let's take it to set 3, where Maryland climbed back down 2-0. Back-to-back aces from Allie Williams give the Terps a third set win and some life in front of a near-record 5,000 fans at the Xfinity Center. In the fourth, Maryland wasn't done, tying the match up by taking the set 25-23. When the match came down to the fifth and final set, Penn State sealed the deal, winning 3-2. Here's head coach Adam Hughes after the loss.
some of the players' first time playing in a big environment at home. And I don't know if that led to the slow start, but got off to a very, very slow start. And some of those are things that I thought were below our standard.
Well, after a tough Terps loss on the Xfinity hardwood, let's go a little deeper on Maryland volleyball.
Yeah, and Ben, to help us do that, we're now excited to be joined by Terrapin Sports Central volleyball beat writer Ethan Dean. Ethan, thanks so much for carving out some time for us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Ethan, I'll get us started. The big story from Sunday is obviously the fact that Maryland was able to get 2 sets up against the reigning champs. You were at the Xfinity Center. What was sort of the impact and what was sort of the aura surrounding that 3rd and 4th set win specifically?
Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, since it was main court mania, the crowd had us the entire way through. But that 3rd set, it was mostly controlled by Maryland, so it was very much, you could kind of tell the shift was coming. And then the 4th set, it was back and forth. It wasn't as much so the Terps, and I think it was around maybe 4 kills for Ajax Malual in the middle of the set. Those completely shifted the energy, and even still Penn State was coming back and they were tying it up. I think at one point it was 20-20, and they just kept rallying. And that, I don't know if you saw on X that last point, the crowd just erupted. It was really a surreal thing to be a part of.
You mentioned it being a surreal thing to kind of be there on the main court. Second time in as many years Maryland's done that. You also mentioned Ajax Malual, the Tennessee transfer, who now leads this team in kills, had 20 less than 24 hours ago in that loss. This is an attack that has no more Sam Sire, no more Samantha Schnitta. So they bring in Malual, and what has she done to acclimate herself so quickly?
Yeah, as you mentioned, with those 2 players, we lost 8 seniors. The Terps were kind of, Coach Hughes has talked a lot in post-game pressers about how it's a young team and they're trying to find their footing, and this was their first big matchup. And I think Malual, Hughes has mentioned her a lot because she is able to kind of mentor these younger players with her seniority. And, she's been known to kind of have a little bit of messy play with kills and errors, but she's been cleaning it up throughout the season. And Coach Hughes highlights her and also Eva Rohrbach as 2 players that are able to kind of act as rocks for the team. And I think being thrust into a leadership position like that has only elevated her play. As you mentioned, she's had multiple 20-kill games throughout the season.
Yeah, no doubt one of the largest crowds on hand at the Xfinity Center. Can you speak to the crowd impacts of having these volleyball matches at the Xfinity Center as opposed to the Stephen M. Shonwell Pavilion? I know it's a lot smaller, but should this be a more regular occurrence? Should there be more than one annual match there per year?
Yeah, in my opinion, I totally think that we should have more of those. If you see in road games with the Terps, their issues a lot of times are allowing the opponents to go on scoring runs when they're at home, and a lot of that has to do with how the home crowd can rally those, and they can even build and build. But if you see, Sunday was the first home loss for the Terps volleyball this season. They beat Delaware State and they beat Seton Hall, and both 3-0 sets. And the crowd energy, even in the pavilion, has allowed them to go on even more scoring runs than they have on the road. And I think the Penn State game in the main court, obviously, we've taken Penn State to 5 sets. They're the reigning champions. That's pretty crazy. And I think that the Terps should, I would say maybe 1 or 2 a month. I think the main court mania games will allow the younger players to have that sort of experience and see how a big match can actually impact play and how they can adjust to maybe mishaps on the court.
Yeah, no doubt. Everything was kind of going right for Maryland until it wasn't, right? Can you speak to some of the disappointment coming in that tiebreak set? It wasn't super close at the end. What went wrong there for Maryland?
A lot of what went wrong in that 5th set was just not allowing, as we mentioned, Malual. She was kind of the big hitter for the game, and she was unable to be set up on the outside position. She's an opposite hitter, and she was really frustrated. Coach Hughes said post-game about how she wasn't able to get those opportunities. And Penn State, they have Kennedy Martin. She is one of the nation's leaders in kills, and her offense is just impeccable. And she just kept laying. I think she had 21 kills herself compared to Malual's 20. So what went wrong was really the defense. I think they were just tired. They had the crowd behind them, and the set just didn't start how it was. I think it was 8-2 was the deficit. It didn't start how they wanted it. And in such a 15-point 5th set, it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, you just said before, too, it's so hard in that 5th set when you go back down and you just can't really climb back even at home. But you mentioned there's more opportunities coming, and for Maryland, still 3 more games as part of this homestand before going on a week-long road trip. So these 3 games at home in a row after that loss to Penn State, how important can that be to the Terps' success overall this season?
Yeah, I think even just looking past, a 7-7 record, I think it's no fluke that we started 7-3. The volleyball has kind of, as a young team, they have impressed. We didn't have not a lot of expectations going in, I guess I could say. But Illinois is actually a team women's volleyball has not beaten ever in school history. And Wisconsin's ranked number 7. The new poll just came out earlier today. And Wisconsin has completely shut down opponents. And Illinois has been firing on all cylinders, really. They don't score as much, but they've been able to hold some pretty impressive teams, and they've gotten a lot of sweeps. So I think even past the record, I think allowing the young team to learn through more games, it's only going to grow from there. They're only going to be able to become stronger. And if the Terps volleyball can kind of get one or two more wins, snag something maybe from Illinois, and then they play Rutgers later next week, I think that it will push them and the young team to kind of a momentum swing in the season after, dropping 4 straight.
You mentioned that Wisconsin game's coming up. That's going to be back in the Chamois Pavilion, but you might have a main court energy against one of the top teams in the country in the Badgers.
Right.
And no doubt, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much, Ethan, for joining us. You can stay up to date with all of Ethan's coverage on TerrapinSportsCentral.com and on X at EthanD1104.
Might be all for Ethan, but we're just getting started on the first October edition of The Left Bench. Still to come, we'll head over to the new home of Maryland men's and women's basketball.
We've got updates for you on Maryland soccer and field hockey before we introduce a new game that might just get a little heated. Stay with us. I'm Ben Geffner, he's Ryan Martin, and Ryan, despite a pair of Sweet 16 finishes last season, Maryland men's and women's basketball were previously the only Big Ten schools without a dedicated practice facility until now.
Ben, that's so hard to believe, but now the Barry P. Gossett Basketball Performance Center is finally here, and TSU's Drew Owens is back. She paid a visit to the Terps' new compound. Take a look.
Walking in the building for the very first time and just seeing how it was all laid out and every detail they paid attention to, and you just pinch yourself.
Maryland basketball has its new home, the Barry P. Gossett Performance Center. The 45,000 square foot facility features so much, from new practice courts, a new strength and conditioning room, to new amenities such as hydrotherapy stations. Plans for this facility to open started coming in the works during June of 2023. And now 2 years later, the facility is finally opened. Before the 2025 season, Maryland was the only Big Ten program without a standalone basketball facility. Now, with the Gossett Performance Center, this gives both the men's and women's basketball teams their own space to practice. In the past, both men's and women's basketball teams would have to share Xfinity Center with either volleyball, wrestling, or with each other. The new facility allows both teams to come in without having to worry about scheduling time to get in shots.
I think it just kind of alleviates it wasn't a stress, but now we kind of have the freedom to come in here whenever we want.
Both teams are able to have their own practice space ahead of the 2025-2026 season. For Terrapin Sports Central, I'm Drew Owens.
Thanks so much, Drew. It's an unbelievable facility around it. Had me wishing I took basketball a little more seriously. Obviously didn't go D1, played in high school, but just an unbelievable facility I wish I could play in.
You'll be the guy on the Ritchie Coliseum courts now, the Epley courts, getting the work in and stuff. I think they're going to say the Barry P. Gossett Performance Center to the Big Ten players here. But maybe you could give them maybe some scout team runs?
Yeah, about decent enough. All right, well, let's go from the hardwood to the pitch, where Maryland men's soccer made the 2,500-mile journey out west on Friday for a primetime match against UCLA. Both teams pitched a shutout under a sunny Westwood backdrop, drawing this one 0-0. The Terps outshot the Bruins 12-8, controlling pace throughout the majority of the 90 minutes. But the UCLA defense holds stout, courtesy of 2 clutch saves by goalie Kevin Box. Key defense from Lasse Kelp limits the Bruins' attack to 0 attempted shots on goal, cementing another point to Maryland's season total. The Terps earn their second draw of Big Ten play and stay unbeaten in 2025. Good for their best start to a season since 2017.
From the men to the women, Maryland women's soccer returned home Sunday after an 0-2 road trip, this time against Illinois. Hosting the Fighting Illini on the Terps' senior day, Maryland struck first, but the Fighting Illini responded and handed the Terps their third straight loss. Here's a quick start just 9 minutes in at Ludwig. Ava Morales scores her fourth goal of the season on this shot right here. It's her shot, and it puts Maryland up 1-0. Then to the second half, where the momentum completely shifts. Illinois' Emma Yee nets an equalizing goal less than a minute into the second half. Maryland goalkeeper Faith Lucky makes a season-high 9 saves, but a matching 9 second-half shots on goal for Illinois was just too much. Illinois wins it with 6 minutes left in the game. Kayla Jackson's the hero, hands the Terps a 2-1 loss, and drops Maryland below 500. Coach Marciano, it's never easy to allow a game winner so late, isn't it?
But I just told the team, I think we didn't defend well enough today in general, and we didn't play well enough today to win the game, right? And probably not even to draw.
So Marciano and Maryland women's soccer couldn't get things done against Illinois, but the same couldn't be said for number 11 Maryland field hockey Sunday at Michigan State. We head to East Lansing and pick this one up 10 minutes in. Freshman Jordan Holloman bounces it bottom left corner like she's been doing all fall long. Her 5th goal of the season gives Maryland its only lead needed and earns Holloman the team lead in goals scored. But for Jordan, that accolade only lasted about 40 minutes. That's when sophomore Ella Gayton tied Holloman's season total using this shot. Her score, her 5th goal of the year. Goalkeeper Alyssa Klobasco makes 3 saves for her 4th shutout of the season, and the Terps take it 2-0 before traveling to number 10 Iowa on Friday.
Now stick around, because when we come back, we'll debut an all-new game that's must-see TV.
I can't wait, Ben, and we'll reveal our Terp of the Week and our top 5 plays. You won't want to miss it.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/act now.
Welcome back to Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ben Geffner. That's Ryan Martin. And Ryan, it's been a long time coming, but it's finally time for some hot takes.
Yeah, Ben, excited for this one. We got our Director of Technicals, Gibson Hurt, here making his on-air debut. And so Maryland's now nearly halfway through its 2025 season. And after Saturday's performance, the three of us are going to ask some questions that just need to be answered. So let's make a game out of it. We're going to call this one Locks or Knocks.
Of course, we're honored to be joined by Gibby. Let's get us started. Ryan, you have the first take.
Yeah, guys, the biggest question, as you can see, the rules we're going to share hot takes. We'll have 90 seconds instead to debate this opinion. You can agree with it and lock it in, or you can disagree with the take and knock it down. We have our fun-themed Mike Loxley's just for the occasion. Gibson can hold him up right there. Lock or knock? You got to choose. And guys, I want to start with the question on the mind of every Maryland football fan that watched Jonah Coleman score Saturday, that gave the Huskies 24 unanswered points and hand Maryland its first loss of the season. This loss will not snowball Maryland football season, and the Terps will get back to that 4-0 form we saw at Wisconsin a few weeks ago. Ben, I'll start with you. Lock it or knock it?
I'm going to knock this one, a big X for Mike Loxley's head right there. He said entering last weekend rather, that this was, a different feeling coming into a bye week. The Terps were previously 0-9 under him, but it was the same exact result. Another loss, a second half collapse, 0-10 now. And if we take a look, it's honestly a mountain of a schedule to climb up. They got Nebraska next week. That's coming off a get-right win over Michigan State last weekend. Then there's UCLA squad. That, newsflash, they're pretty good now. They just knocked Penn State out of the college football playoff pretty effectively. They're out of the top 25 now altogether. Jerry Neuheisel is certainly the truth. And after that, number 7 Indiana. Then 2 of Maryland's final 4 games are against ranked opponents. It's a tough hill to climb back on. You have no momentum. I just don't see them crawling out of this hole that Loxley has unfortunately put them in again after the bye week.
Gibson, Maryland gets back to form. You lock it or you knock it?
I lock it. I think this is a different team. Malik Washington, I don't know if everyone saw his press conference, but he was confident. He was encouraging him and his teammates. And it just felt different. Last year, obviously, very disappointing season. You go 4-8. You beat USC. You rushed the field. You thought maybe that was the start of something. But this year, you start conference play with the win at Wisconsin. You drop this game, obviously. If you're a Maryland fan, if you're a player, it stinks. But you have another chance to bounce back against Nebraska at home. I think is the most important thing. If they're able to take care of business there, I think they definitely could get back.
Fellas, real quick, I'm going to knock this one. I don't think Maryland gets back to that form. The 2 most winnable games are at Rutgers and at UCLA. Loxley's won only about a third of his Big Ten Conference games on the road so far this season. I don't think so.
Yeah, that UCLA squad is definitely a trap game waiting to happen. Moving on to hot take number 2. A heightened allure and national media presence has been on display to start 2025, especially with the arrival of freshman QB Malik Washington. The take is a nationally televised pregame show or game will come to College Park at some point this season. Gibby, we'll start with you. Lock it or knock it?
I don't know if I could have knocked that one fast enough. I think maybe if Maryland beats Washington last week and if they beat Nebraska next week and then had beaten UCLA, which maybe UCLA is a powerhouse now, you don't know. But if they had been 7-0, have a bye, then Indiana comes here, I think definitely could have seen a show maybe the likes of Game Day or Big Noon or even CBS's 3:30 national slot would be a big primetime spotlight for the Terps. But I think that losing that game to Washington, now you absolutely have to win these next 2 games. And even then, Indiana goes to Oregon this week. If they upset Oregon, then maybe because all the spotlight's on Indiana. But if Oregon takes care of business, then I don't think Game Day or Big Noon really have the reason to come to College Park with 2 teams that have at least 1 loss.
BG, I'll keep it quick, give you some time to rebut. I'm knocking it as well. Did you see that team in the second half on Saturday? I'm so sorry. Jim Smith has done so many good things to get fans in the stands, especially on family weekend. A sellout crowd was awesome, but you got to keep fans there the whole time. Maryland loses some steam. Washington scores 24 unanswered, and Maryland fans aren't anywhere to be seen. We know it's been an issue that the new athletic department's really working on, but before we think about Big Noon, Game Day, let's see if Maryland fans can still be in the stadium.
All right, under 10 seconds now, really quick. I'm going to lock this one in. I wrote the take. I believe heavily in it. Obviously, Maryland is a school that notoriously hasn't been great at football for a long, long time now. But with Malik Washington, there's such an incentive to come on a national stage, especially with the pregame show. We saw Big Noon come a few years back. They're the only school that hasn't hosted Game Day, one of 6 schools nationwide ever. So there's more of an incentive now. And the hype around Malik Washington, I see, a pregame show definitely in Maryland's future this season.
Boys, we got to get better at doing this timer, too. We got too much opinions to go for. But here's one more. We talk so much about true freshman quarterback Malik Washington, but this running game around him will be the reason he doesn't develop as much this year as he possibly could. Gibson, you lock it or knock it with that take?
You know what? Because I'm in the mood, I'm going to knock it as well. I really don't think that the run game is the problem with this offense. I think it's more of I wouldn't say the play calling, but the scenarios where Maryland's winning by 20 points in the second half and only running it 4 or 5 times, whatever it was. I think if they had ran the ball, who knows how many yards they would have averaged per carry if Nolan Ray or Dwan Williams could get a go. So I don't necessarily say it's going to be the run game that's going to be a problem. I think it's more running plays that Malik is comfortable and can then lead the offense down the field.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Gibby, on there. I'm locking this one in. I think just looking at the stat sheet now, only 1/5 of Maryland's offensive production came via run on Saturday. Puts a lot of pressure on Malik. Teams know where they're going to go, mainly to the pass game. They haven't really run the ball much of all, especially in that second half on Saturday. I think that continues throughout the rest of this season.
Ben, I'm locking that one in as well. I got the lock up here. I think that running game needs to improve, and right now there's just no reason for optimism that it can. You bring in Pep Hamilton as the new OC, who's tried some new things out, but that running game's still the lowest in the Big Ten, averaging about 93 yards per game. Guys, this Maryland offense does not have a rush over 17 yards in any of the 5 games this season. They're the only Big Ten team to not have a rush of 20 yards or more. Just no explosiveness, and again, just like you said, Ben, they know that if it's a big play coming, it needs to be Washington through the air.
You know, you've convinced me. I'm locking it in.
Okay, a buzzer beater lock-in from Gibby.
Wow.
Wow.
A rush over 17 yards. See what Nolan Ray did last year versus UConn and Villanova, but has just struggled to do this year. I'll lock that one.
That's why you do your homework, get the stats, right, Gibby?
Great take, Gibby. Our last take now, though, guys, we talked so much about this offense, but 10 Montecano's defense has been good, but a problem emerged on Saturday. The take is Maryland's defense is too young to finish games. Ryan, lock it or knock it?
Final take here, Ben. I am knocking this one. I'm not blaming this on the defense. I don't think it's the defense's fault completely. Mike Locksley loves to talk about 68 new players. That's on both sides of the ball. I think this is a young defense, but also a young offense. That guys scored or put up less than 40 total yards of offense once they went up 20-0 over Washington on Saturday. That offense couldn't close out the game, so I'm not really too concerned about the defense, too. I think it's a whole team effort.
Gibby, what about you?
You know what? I'm gonna knock that one as well.
Okay.
I don't think that it's necessarily the experience. I think it's more just the results. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, redshirt freshman, or a 7th-year senior. You just gotta make it happen on the field. And if Maryland wants to turn the season back around, they've got to see the results. It doesn't matter if it's a freshman or a senior stepping up.
No doubt. I'm going to agree here. Another consensus, another knock on that one. Coach Locksley has said multiple times this season that inexperience is good. They don't know what they don't know, right? So I think having those freshmen in there, especially on the defensive end and those underclassmen, can really benefit them. It's not the sole reason for their struggles.
So inexperience is Sidney Stewart, Zahir Mathis, and Malik Washington on the field, and Gibson hurt here at the desk, but he looked like a seasoned veteran there. Well, it's always fun chopping up and having Gibson on here, the 1401 crew.
Yo, a pleasure.
Always a good time as always. But it's awards time. Ben, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, this week's Terp of the Week provided the game winner in Maryland's only true sport win this week. Yep, you guessed it, it's Jordan Holloman. Maryland field hockey's star forward has been stellar for the Terps all continued the trend on the road this weekend. Fresh off a Big Ten Freshman of the Week honor just 2 weeks ago in a near shutout loss to Ohio State on Friday, Holloman entered Sunday with some extra motivation. She scored on this left side strike through the cage just 10 minutes into game action in the Terps' 2-0 win over Michigan State on Sunday. Jordan Holloman, congrats on being named our Terp of the Week.
From a field hockey freshman to a WNBA superstar, and you know, Ben, that title might even be an understatement for Alyssa Thomas. Maryland women's basketball's all-time leading scorer and rebounder. She's now in the W with the Phoenix Mercury, and Thomas has been tantalizing in the WNBA Finals, which was this week. It's a well-deserving of her being named our Pro Terp of the Week. A candidate for the WNBA's most valuable player this season, Thomas has been on a different level during the playoffs. Her 9 assists per game this postseason lead the league while finding teammates and averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds across her 3 playoff outings this week. Thomas was a 2-time ACC Player of the Year before graduating Maryland and being the 4th overall pick in 2014. Now, Ben, her Mercury are down in the WNBA Finals 2-0 to reigning champion Las Vegas, but Thomas has been a bright spot for Phoenix. Congrats to Alyssa Thomas, arguably the best Terp of all time, on being named our Terp of the Week.
Yeah, an unbelievable job, Alyssa Thomas. I know she's been, making us wear the orange hoodie a fair amount the past few years. An unbelievable job by her. But you know the drill. It's top 5 plays time. Get us started.
All right, Ben, I'll be excited to do this one. We're going to go to number 5 as part of that main court mania on Sunday. We're here in set number 3, where Maryland watches a Penn State attacking error, and they claim that big third set, end up losing still 3-2. But that, on the main court, gave over 5,000 fans a good show.
Stay on the hardwood for number 4 here. A team-high 20 kills for A.J. Mallowell. This one here, she climbs the ladder. Kevin Harlan, did we just see what we think we just saw? Let's see the replay one more time in slow-mo. An absolute tomahawk slam by Mallowell. That's number 4 on our top 5.
Love a little Harlan mention. How about going to football for number 3? Washington first drive. Jalen Husky says, I don't think so. His second interception in as many weeks takes this one back 32 yards. Maryland, of course, ends up losing, but Husky, who is a Big Ten team, first team of the week, with that interception.
Another AJ for number 2. So nice we had to do it twice. AJ Szymanski, his first career touchdown on his only catch of the game. Let's see it one more time. This time slowed down. A great pass from freshman quarterback Malish Washington and a great put-away finish by Szymanski.
And number 1, how about on her senior day, Ava Morales, the Clarksville, Maryland native, gets Maryland started with the rebound, control, and strike for the Terps' lone goal in a 2-1 loss to Illinois. Someone who's been doing it all season long for Maryland, and on her senior day, she gets that big goal. How about that moment, too, for A.J. Szymanski, too, someone who was really raised Maryland, kind of announced himself there just like the second best player in the NBA of all time. Might announce something tomorrow.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see what LeBron's got to say tomorrow. But here on a Monday night, before we go, we have Aiden Curry and Ben Volker with a preview of Wednesday's In Focus show.
Aiden, Ben, you guys are going all in on Maryland women's soccer, right?
Yeah, Maryland women's soccer is off to one of its best starts in a while, thanks to first-year head coach Michael Marciano.
Yeah, Aiden, and on Wednesday's edition of the Left Bench in Focus, we'll take a look at the Terps' most recent game against Illinois, and we're going to break down Michael Marciano's first year at the helm.
And we'll play a fun game of headbands, plus talk with TSC women's soccer beat writer Joe Wagman for his insights into this team's year.
Trust me, this is going to be a show that you guys are going to want to tune in for. I guarantee it.
No doubt. From one Ben to the other, I know I'll be tuning in. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Aiden.
Of course.
So you'll have to catch up with them on Wednesday when they'll have the Women's Soccer in Focus show on our YouTube channel, Wednesday 10 a.m. Set your alarms.
And that about does it for this week. Be sure to keep up with all of TSC's coverage on Instagram, X, YouTube, and online at TerrapinSportsCentral.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll take a break next week for fall break, but don't forget to tune in to our Women's Soccer in Focus show on Wednesday.
Have a great Monday night, and we'll talk to you then.